Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and that cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Dan, you're very welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
It's fantastic. Now, I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. So Stryker recently released the track Give It All. You describe it as written for an 80s action movie that doesn't exist. Tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so for the longest time I've been a big fan of just 80s music, 80s movies, that kind of stuff. And I think I've also been equally a huge fan of just like the montage music that goes along with it, like movies like Over the Top, where you've got Sammy Hagar did the montage song for that and stuff, and then like Eye of the Tiger and things like that. I've always liked those songs for whatever reason. I mean, they're just cool, but and so when we were writing this song originally, the lead guitar line or the saxophone was originally just like a lead guitar, and we were like, why don't we try, I was like listening to Eddie Money or something like that, like Take Me Home Tonight. It's just like, that would be cool if that was like a saxophone in there. And then we were luckily we were able to get a guy to do the saxophone on the song, and it kind of fit the mood, right? Like fit the vibe of the song.
Definitely did. I was actually going to ask, how did you manage to get Tim Capello on? Why is he wearing a balaclava in the video?
Man, I like, as an afterthought, that would have been so amazing if we could have. I mean, even if he was just available to play on it, I hadn't even thought of that at the time. Like we got a guy, Randy Villars, who he actually did saxophone on a New Kids on the Block album and was the saxophone player in Bootsy Collins' band.
Oh man.
So it is like a guy who's way, way better musician than we are. It was just like, it took him like 2 seconds to record that and was like, there you go. So.
How do you go about creating such an authentic sounding 80s action movie song, and make it sound like it was actually genuinely released back in the 80s?
That's just years of listening to that style of music, I guess. We've perfected the nuances, I guess, but I think it's in the technical side of like the songwriting, I guess it's like I've always liked guitar riffs that have a lot of space. So like a really good example would be Rock You Like a Hurricane. It's like da-na-na, space, da-na, space, da-na. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of newer metal, like everything's full all the time. Like everything's ringing out all the time,
spaces,
or everything's chugging, or everything's being picked the whole time. And I find that that's a big part of like the 80s sound, is like that space in between the riff kind of thing. So,
I gotcha.
The secret sauce.
Do you think there's much of a market these days? Because when you sit back and think of it, you're like, no, it's the 80s, no one's interested. But then when you find a song like this, people are like eating it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that 80s stuff. I mean, I was born in 88, so I wasn't necessarily around listening to music in the 80s. So I don't know what it is that I like so much about it, but I just like it. And I think a lot of people are the same way, regardless of whether it's like strictly metal or if it's just like the movies, or especially if you're into horror movies, it's like that's a big part of that culture, is just like everything that came out in the 80s. So I mean, musically, yeah, like we didn't get into writing 80s metal to like get rich. so so we're not too worried about there being a market for it necessarily, but yeah, we just enjoy doing it. So
Right, right. Well, you do it well anyway. I have to say that.
thanks, man.
And walk us through the video. It has everything. I was watching it and I was like, where's the training montage? Next thing, a training montage starts, and you even have like the rooftop helicopter shop or
Yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Walk us through it.
Yeah, we just wanted to do something that was like sort of tongue in cheek a little bit, a little bit like deadpan humor, kind of just, staring at the camera. It's like we obviously know it's a ridiculous song. And so we figured we got to get the visuals have to match in some way. So yeah, we ended up filming that. Actually, it's at our guitar player's aunt's house. She's got
Right.
a really nice house, and we were like, that's perfect for this. We've had a few house parties there in the past, and we're like, yeah, this would be a good fit for that. And then yeah, I don't know, we just kind of thought, what can we do to make it give it that vibe where it's expensive, but in like the stupidest way you could possibly be.
Yeah. Oh, it's pure entertainment. And the track is off your upcoming album, UltraPower. It's your seventh full length. What can we expect from this one?
This one's got a lot. It's the first album in, I don't know, I guess maybe like 8 or 9 years that we've recorded with a producer. So we went to Michigan to record with Josh Schrader, who he's known for stuff like Lorna Shore and like, the most brutal, it's like deathcore and stuff like that. And
Right.
and we ended up going to him because we were like, it would be funny to see what happens, right? Like, what we didn't realize was he's just a really great producer across the board. So it's not like he was like, oh, we have to do deathcore stuff in your music. It was like, no, he was just good at, anything. So we went in there thinking like, oh, we might come out the other side with like a crazy deathcore album or something like that. And it would just that's always the case for us. We're like, this is going to be our craziest album ever, and then it just sounds like us in the end, because that's our natural instincts are just like, oh yeah, this should be like this or whatever. Um but yeah, the album has a lot of different songs. I think there's a lot of strange character to each track, and we just had a lot of fun with it. We weren't it's like we always take things, this might be a Canadian thing, but we take it seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously.
Right.
So it's kind of like, yeah, we're just having fun doing the music that we like, and then hopefully other people like it too.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of, when you look into you guys, you seem like a bunch of friends just having fun. And on the face, it's like, right, these guys don't take it seriously. But then you listen to the music, and as you said, it's the perfect mix of not taking yourself seriously, but taking the music seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, we are all friends too. Like, the band has had some member changes, but luckily we've been able to like, continue to just find people who we know or friends, or it's like Simon, who this is his first album with us. He came in the band, like maybe it was like 2016 to do some touring with us, when our other guitar player Chris had left, and then Chris came back, and then Simon, he stepped out because he was just doing the touring. And then when Chris left again, Simon came back. So it was like we've been friends for a long time. We've all been playing in the same, local scene for forever. So, and then Pete, our bass player, we knew him way back, and then he moved to Japan for 7 years. So he's
Right.
just like gone. But we'd see him on Twitter now and again, like retweeting our posts and stuff like that, and but all in Japanese. We were like, oh, that's crazy. So, and then he ended up moving back, and then we were looking for a bass player, and he just sent us a message, be like, hey, I play bass. And we're like, oh, really? Like, sick. Let's do it. So yeah, we've been lucky to be able to get so many like rad dudes in the
Hmm.
band. So Yeah, it's been lots
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, when you complete a body of work such as this album, personally, how do you kind of look back on it in your mind?
Usually like it depends how long it's been. Sometimes it'll be like, here's all the things I should have done differently on this album. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I should have done that, like whatever. But like right now, I still really enjoy the album. I mean, it's been recorded for almost a year now.
Right.
So yeah, it's like it takes that long to get everything sort of sorted out and
Mm.
released. But yeah, I still like the album, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. You've obviously had the chance to play some of the tracks live then, have you?
No, not yet, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so, when we finished in the studio, our drummer left the band, and that sort of left us with, like, well, no drummer, so we were like and we weren't in a super huge hurry to try and find a replacement, um, just because in the past we've sort of quickly rushed into being like, "Oh, yeah, you come on in," and then maybe without, explaining the tribulations of what it is to be in a band. Not everybody's interested in all that, like, let's go on tour for 6 weeks and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's part of the reason. And then we've just been super busy with like we're an independent band. We just basically do everything ourselves. So we've been busy doing like the music videos and getting everything set up for the release and all that stuff. It's like a surprising amount of work.
Mm. Yeah.
And then everybody's still working their own day jobs and stuff like that. So it hasn't been too hard for us to not play shows, but we're also really looking forward to actually getting out and playing shows this year, which I mean, last year I think we only played 2 shows,
Oh man.
and which is like weird for us. Usually it's like somewhere in the ballpark of like 80 to 100 shows in a year, something like that. But yeah.
That's a big drop off. How did you kind of, I'd imagine it was like you had a massive itch you couldn't scratch then. How did you deal with it?
Yeah, I don't know. We just like luckily, I think because we've been busy doing other stuff for the band, like if it was like the album's been out and we haven't played any shows, we'd be like in rough shape, I think. But
True, true.
because we were still busy, like getting everything sorted out, getting the artwork, getting all the this stuff.
Yeah.
There was always something going on, so it's sort of easy for us to be like, oh, what? Well, there's something still going on with the band, so. Um, but it is super weird because I think in the end, the 2 things we love about being in a band is making music and then playing it live. So it's sort of like, we're missing half of the reason.
Yeah, true, true. And you know, in the past, you guys have won so many awards. I mean, the Juno Awards, Western Canadian Music Awards, the Edmonton Music Awards. Bit of a weird question now, but how does that impact new music? Is it intimidating? Are you kind of thinking, right, how do we follow on from an award-winning album?
Not really. Like, no,
Right.
I never really thought about it. It's like one of those things where I think this is probably similar to a lot of people who are in metal. Uh, it's like it's never been about that kind of thing, like it's almost like the counterculture person in me is like, I don't even need that award or whatever, you know what I mean? Although it is awesome. It is super fun to like talk about and like it is like a good thing to have on your resume as like a musician and a band. I think it helps people take you seriously too a little bit. As much as we don't take ourselves seriously, it's nice to have that to be like, well, actually, we kind of,
Yeah,
you know, we do take
yeah.
it serious. But yeah, it's nice to have, but we don't worry too much about like upholding that. I think the biggest thing for us is we're in a race with. Do you know the band Unleash the Archers?
Mm,
So they're from Western Canada as well. We won a Juno the year before them, and we're good friends. And so now we're racing to see if we can win a second one before they win a second one.
right,
And you
right.
see, I mean, that's maybe neither of us win ever again, but it's always just like we're just trying to like one up each other and see, it's like It's like, oh, you guys might have sold more albums, but look at this here.
Yeah, exactly. And how's it holding up at the moment? Any critics saying either one has the lead?
Oh, I mean, in the last little bit, Unleash the Artists has kind of like exploded as a band. So we're just kind of like, hey, don't forget about us, bros. Like, but you never know when it comes down to the critics that vote for this stuff. You never know. Maybe they
True.
like the saxophone, because I know for a fact that they don't have a saxophone on their new album.
Well, see, you're that bit ahead already. And at this point, I'd like to dive into your history when it comes to music to give the listeners a sense of who you are. It's a bit of a tricky one, but can you remember your earliest musical memory?
Yep. I think the one I remember the most is I would have been maybe, trying to think here, 6, maybe grade 1, maybe around there somewhere, 5 or 6. My dad had a vinyl record of what the heck is it called? What's the band? Okay, the song is Money for Nothing.
Yeah.
What's
Dire Straits.
Dire Straits, that's it. Yeah. So that album, I remember listening to the riff at the start of that and being like, sick. Riffs are sick. Like, that was sort of like, that's the first one I really remember. And maybe it's because I just have remembered it so many times, but and I just remember the cover. It has like the what do you call that guitar? It's kind of like a slide guitar or whatever, dobro, I think maybe it's called. But anyways, I remember that pretty
Right.
vividly. Yeah,
Good memory.
doing some air guitar with the tennis racket.
And what's for us listeners over here, over this side of the world, what's the music scene like in Canada, the rock metal scene?
It's really good. There's been a lot of bands coming out of especially Western Canada right now. Finally, like a lot of bands that we've kind of grown up with that have been doing little things here and there are finally starting to like get serious and get out there and tour and stuff like that. So it's really awesome to see. I mean, metal's a big part of our culture up here in Edmonton, where it's a little bit farther north. It's a little bit more blue collar, I'd say, up here. And I mean, like our hockey team skates out to Metallica and stuff like that. It's,
Right.
like, it's definitely part of the vibe here. So yeah, like it's the scene is good. I think the hardest part for us, particularly up as north as we are, it's been harder to get shows to come up here, which is a bummer. Like for a while we had lots, and then I don't know, there's some politicking going on or something like that, Live Nation, that kind of thing. Just
Yeah.
some tours just aren't getting up here, which is too bad. So it's like then the closest place we can go usually is like a 12-hour drive, or you have to fly there. So
Oh,
it's
lovely.
yeah. So if you're in a band and you're listening, don't skip Edmonton.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And growing up then, how did your local scene influence your sound?
I guess like the group of people that we hung around in high school, we were all into like classic metal. And then I don't know, it was a weird little like group of people that just all loved, like, we're like, okay, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all that stuff. And then we once we got to the age where we could go to the bar, we would go to like the rock and metal bars. And then you meet some of the older guys there with the patch vest jacket on, and they're like, oh, you like that? Like, you got to listen to this, and this. So it's like that sort of like molded us. That got us into like all like the sort of more obscure, like speed metal and like European like power metal and stuff like that. So, yeah, we had lots of like seasoned veterans of the metal scene kind of guide us and show us new music and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really good.
I like it. I like it. It's called Concerts That Made Us. So I have to ask you, as a concert goer, what concerts do you think have made you?
it's probably more the concert DVDs that I've watched that have made me
Right.
like I've been to a lot like early on I went to, like a few bigger concerts. Like I think the first concert I ever went to was maybe Velvet Revolver.
Oh man.
Weird one, but yeah.
Nice.
And then shortly after that was like I think Van Halen and then I think Ozzy or something like that. But
Oh god.
yeah, I mean, one of the concerts that made us was the in 2011. This is like early on in our we had just put out our first full length album. We won a contest in Edmonton to open for Metallica
Right.
for two nights in a row at the big like the stadium, right? Like
Yeah.
and
Holy crap.
yeah, it was crazy. So it was like we peaked so early in our career. We're just like, oh, open for Metallica. We've played like 20 shows or something like that at the
Yeah.
time. And so yeah, we like that was amazing. And one of the things that was so surprising about that is when we got to meet the guys from Metallica, like they were just around all the time. They were kind of forced to walk past where we were, so we got to talk to
Right.
them. All the time. We were like there all day. We never left. We're like, whoa, we're gonna see these guys. But they were so cool. Like the first night we were sound checking and they James Hetfield came in and they had like a camera crew following them for this because they had a bunch of behind the scenes stuff they were doing. That was for their movie that Through the Never. They played like warm up shows before they filmed like the main one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like he came in and walked up on stage while we were sound checking and said hello to us and stuff. And it's like we're in there. It's funny, we're in like the one of the behind the scenes videos on YouTube from that. You can see us. It's like looking into the past. It's like 10 years ago. It's like, oh, these guys are young.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, we got that was like a concert that gave us a real taste of like, wow, this is insane to play on a stage this big and with this kind of like production going on and just like, that was very inspiring for us. And so we've just been chasing that high ever since.
Yeah, yeah, Jesus. That'd be like at that stage in your career, like winning the lotto. But when you're playing with guys like Metallica, then especially that early, what do you learn?
I mean, the main thing we learned well, you can't see anything on stage when there's a spotlight on you. You
Yeah.
just like I was like, I might fall off the stage because you just can't see anything. Which that was funny. But other than that, it was I think the biggest thing I took away from that was just that those guys are really nice still. Like they're just nice people. They weren't I mean, maybe they're not nice to everybody. The opening band that won the contest, maybe they have to be nice to us or whatever, but
Right.
they went like above and beyond. Like they talked to us all the time. They actually Lars, so what happened was we we were in like a because they had so much film stuff going on because they're doing like the 3D movie. Uh, they didn't have like a room really for us, so we were kind of just like out on the floor, in the back part of the stadium there, and they kind of had to walk past us all the time to get like where you get dropped
Right.
off to where
Yeah.
their dressing room was we were like in between that, so they walked past all the time. And the second day, Lars came by with he had the newspaper and was like showing us the review of the show from the night before. And then he was like, "Why are you guys out here?" It's like, "You don't have a dressing room?" And we're like, "No, no, they said they don't have room." And he's just like, "That's crazy." What did he say? He said, even when we opened for Megadeth, they gave us a dressing room or something like that. So we were like, okay. Anyway, so he walks off. And then our guitar player at the time came back over and he's like, I just heard Lars yelling at someone to like get us a green room. So he had,
Right.
yeah, so he like tore a strip off of someone and got us a green room with like a cooler full of beer and all this stuff. And it was just like, wow, that was
Jeez.
crazy. It's like there's no way he needed to do that, but that was really cool. So yeah, I think that's something that we try and just be nice to everybody, right? Like if Metallica is still nice to people, it's like, we ought to be.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And you've played at this stage, you've played over 1,000 shows, you've played some of the biggest festivals across Europe and North America. But For any listeners that haven't caught one of your shows, what are they like?
For our live shows, we just try and have like a good vibe, a lot of energy. I mean, a lot of people always comment that we're smiling a lot on stage.
Right.
And it's funny because it's like, well, yeah, I mean, like it's fun. Like, why wouldn't we be smiling? But I mean,
Yeah.
if you go see like, you know, Belphegor or Immortal or something like that, it's like, yeah, that makes sense that they're not smiling. But like for us, it's like, yeah, man, we're having fun. This is what we love to do. So, um, yeah, that and like, not a lot of bands are doing the everybody sings in the band.
Right.
So
Right.
we do all the harmonies on the album live to the best of our ability. Doesn't always sound perfect, but and I think a lot of people are really surprised by that because a lot of the time it'll be like maybe one other guy in the band does backing vocals or something like that. But with us, it's everybody singing, so it's fun to see.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds it. Sounds it. And if you think back on all the gigs you've played, bar the Metallica one, is there one that sticks out in your mind as the most perfect experience you've had?
Hmm. Trying to think. There's been a lot of really cool ones. We did get a chance to play at Vakken,
Right.
and that whole experience was just like a perfect experience. Like the weather was nice. We 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 got there early and we're able to like hang out backstage for like a few days,
Right.
which was like, I mean, that was a huge bonus. It was like, sometimes we originally we thought we're like, okay, we get to go the day we play and we can hang out that night and then we got to get out of there. But then we asked them, we're like, if we come early, can we stay? And they're like, of course. So we just like
Right.
hung out the whole time, we got like we were like side stage watching like some of the big bands and that kind of thing. So it was just like, wow, that was so fun. And that's the type of thing when you're like first starting out, you're like, man, wouldn't it be amazing to play at Vakken? Like that's like
Yeah.
sort of like the top level, and then to get there and then it be like so hospitable and we can just like do whatever we want and
Yeah. You wouldn't be
watch
expecting it.
anything. Yeah, no. And I mean, we were super lucky with the weather too because it can get, like, really muddy and stuff, but it was just, like, perfect weather. It was awesome. So, that was sort of like, that was, like, the perfect show.
The stars aligned.
Yeah.
And here's where the fun part comes in. If you think back on all the gigs, is there one that sticks out as the worst, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, man. How much time do you have? How many do you wanna know about? Um, we had one show where and I mean, these ones are always tricky because it's like this show was bad because we didn't get proper promotion, and we were like, it wasn't
Right.
like it was just like so we showed up, we set up all of our gear, we sound checked, and then we waited, and just like no one showed up,
Oh
and
man.
we were just like, what happened? Like they're like, oh well, there's a big concert going on in town. It was like a smaller place, like a smaller town, and they're like, oh yeah, like Glass Tiger or something was playing, or some
Right.
Canadian band, and we just yeah, like nobody came. And we were just like, does nobody know about this show? And so we set everything up and then we just started packing it all up because we're just like, okay. And everybody's in a real bad mood. It was like raining outside and all this stuff. And then and then like one person showed up and was like,
Right.
hey, you guys gonna play? And we're like, no, we're done, dude. We're out of here. Sorry. We'll give you a refund for your ticket or whatever. It was just like, damn. That was, like, humbling too because that wasn't even that long ago, and
Right.
then it was so we played a tour with Steel Panther, and so we went from, like, uh, that show on the way to the Steel Panther gigs, and then played, like, sold out shows, with huge crowds and everything, like, right after. It was, like 2 days later, it was just like, "What the hell is this?" Yeah, it was a very weird experience, but that one was not great.
Yeah.
Um But yeah,
Jeez.
I mean, that's not the only time we've had a show like that. We played in, the UK, Nuneaton, I think it's called, in
Right.
in I think that's in England somewhere.
Sounds
But
like an English place
anyways,
anyway.
yeah, like that one was like 2 people came, and one was on the guest list and one was a press guy. And we were like,
Oh,
"What happened?" It's like, there's no way there's only 2 people in this town who want to see a show tonight. It's like, God,
yeah.
yeah, it happens, but yeah, whatever.
Did you play that night?
Yeah, we did play that night. I mean,
Yeah.
we usually we do. Like, even if the show is like, a bummer or like it just doesn't go the way we thought it would go, it's at least just an opportunity to practice.
Yeah,
And
true.
usually we, for the most part, we've had the motto of, even if one person pays to see you, you have to put on the same show, right? Like,
True. True.
it's like they don't show a different movie if only one person goes to see it, right? So like, you know,
It's
you
a good
kind of
way
got
to
to
look
do
at
it. Yeah.
it. And when it comes to showtime, then how do you guys psych yourselves up? And then afterwards, how do you wind down?
Just a couple beers.
Right.
That's the secret sauce. Yeah, really. I mean, yeah, we don't do too much. We just, yeah, a couple beers, get on stage, a couple beers after, feeling
Right.
good.
Simple enough. Simple enough. And when you think of the band down the line, say 3 to 5 years, how would you like to evolve, or is there any plans to evolve? Do you wanna, have you found the perfect recipe as it is, do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to say because like on this album we were sort of just like I think we're slowly getting to be a band that's just like more of uh the influence of all the members. In the past there's been like, okay, it's maybe just me doing a lot of the writing, and then um you know I think it helped working with the producer to be like, actually that is a good idea.
Yeah.
You should change part of your song to be more like this, and then instead of me being like, no, it'd be like, okay, yeah, sure. um but yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of ideas about where the band could go. I mean, I do really want to do I'm really big into, more heavy music, like heavier music, like thrash and death metal and stuff like that. And I do think it would be fun to like throw a curveball at people and just be like, here's the heaviest album we've ever done, right? Next, that's the next one. But
Yeah.
it's hard to know because it's sort of like that would be uh like just for myself, and maybe wouldn't serve the band as a whole or something like that. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think this album definitely leans a little bit to the like lighter, sort of more rock side.
Yeah.
And then I think usually when we lean too pretty far one way, we end up trying to compensate by going back the other way. So maybe the next one will be a little crazier. I don't know.
Right, right. How do you think your fan base would react? Would you be worried about alienating some of them?
Well, I mean, if they're not already alienated, it's always funny because it's like, even we recorded our first EP, Road Warrior, and then right when we released our first actual full-length album, we went to Europe for the first time and played a festival, and a guy came up to me and told me he didn't like my singing on the new album and he liked it better on the EP. And I was like, "Bro, I didn't know how to sing." Like that's why it sounds like that. That's why it's like, it was just like so funny. I'm like, damn, we have like hardly even started, and there's already people telling us they like our earlier stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
we only put out an EP. It's like, I like the EP better than the album. It's just like, God damn. It's like, okay, it's gonna be like this the whole time for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think people who get the band know that we're just, we just write music. Like, we're not necessarily trying to be or do anything particular. It's just like we write the stuff that we like, and then if people like it, I mean, people are always gonna kind of put it in a box and be like, this is not this kind of thing, or this is, I like thrash and I don't like this or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's fair. It's like, that's
Yeah.
okay. You can do that.
It's allowed. It's allowed. And
Yeah.
before we dive into the last couple of questions, then, future plans for the rest of the year after the album comes out? Do you have gigs lined up? What can you tell us?
Yeah, we got a couple of festivals lined up right now. We're still looking into some touring options. It's a little harder these days to sort of nail that stuff down. Like the logistics of touring is a bit more brutal than it used to be. Like we had to cancel a trip to Europe last summer because we were like, we don't want to lose $10,000. Like, like
Right.
that's like,
It's a good reason.
that we'd love to go, but it's like we can't take like a financial hit that hard. It's like that'd be like the end of the band. It'd be like too much, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how do we take ourselves out of that? So, and I mean, it's always funny. You see comments from people that be like, "Well, they could have come." It's like, not really. It's like, yeah,
No.
we could have come, but then we'd have to sell the tour van and like, like that kind of thing. So, um, but yeah, so we got a couple festivals coming up. There's the Legions of Metal Festival in Chicago, and then we have that's in May, and then Prague Power in Atlanta in September. And then we're just looking at tours. We'd love to get back over to Europe again because it's always fun, and we've always had a great time there. So, um, still looking for the right tour for that one, but I'm sure we'll find something.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'd absolutely love to see you guys over here at some
Yeah,
stage.
yeah.
This year or next year would be a hell of a time. And we'll dive into the last few. So these are a couple of random odd music questions, but I'm intrigued to see your answers. The first
Sure.
one, it's easy. What are you currently obsessed with? It can be anything at all now.
Currently, I'm musically probably the band Kvelertak. I
Right.
don't know if you've heard them. They're from Norway. It's a cool band, kind of like an eclectic mix of all kinds of things. Really great, really great. Yeah,
Sounds interesting.
I don't want to do too much of a promo for them, but they're great. And then aside from that, like it sounds funny, but like color grading in like for video.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
can't stop. I'm looking at that because I've been editing the videos for the band, and it's just like there's so much to learn,
Hmm.
and it's just like another thing to do, and I'm just like, oh, there's like a whole world of like, it's like first I was into the recording the music, and there's like a endless world of
Oh yeah.
YouTube videos and tips and stuff like that, and then there's the same thing with video. So it's just like, man, I got to sink a ton of time into that right now.
Yeah. Oh God. That sounds like I'd be like, oh, I don't even want to open that can of worms. I've enough to do over here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh man. And the next one. So if you could collaborate with any musician from history, who would it be and what sort of song would you create?
Oh, it might be Eddie Van Halen,
Right.
which would be sick. I think like Van Halen's just in general, the band is like I guess they're not underrated
No.
songwriters. They're they're rated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be lots of fun to I've it's always been super inspirational, and I just happen to lately have been talking with a couple friends about listening to the entire Van Halen discography in one sitting,
Right.
and it's like about 7 hours long. So it's like
Yeah.
watching like all the Lord of the Rings movies or something like that. Just
Yeah.
like but I think it would be fun to just listen like front to back, whole thing.
That
Case of
would
beer,
actually. Yeah.
be great.
Yeah. When you mention Lord of the Rings, it could be done. When you said it first, I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
geez, that's a lot. But no, you can watch all the Lord of the Rings in one sitting. So,
Yeah, and that's about the same, right?
yeah.
If it's the extended ones, it's like 12 hours. So
Yeah. Yeah. And the final one. What song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
um let's go. This is a funny one. So people will have to watch the video and listen to the song. Uh Man Behind the Oxygen Mask.
Right.
And the song, that's the song title, and the band is The Good, the Bad, and the Zugly.
Right.
So you
Okay.
got to listen to it. It's funny. The whole song's about sleep apnea, so it's like, and I get roasted all the time because we're on tour, be sleeping, and some people snore, some people don't, and then I always get like made fun of, like, bro, you definitely have sleep apnea. like, no, dude, I don't. And they're like, I heard it.
Has to be that one. So,
Yeah, it could be a good one.
yeah, definitely. Listen, Dan, it's been a blast now. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, conscience that made us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us. Concerts